I'll never forget the text message that lit up my phone screen at 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Anya, we need to talk about what happened tonight. The board has decided to revoke your family's membership, effective immediately. It was from Marcus Thorne, the club manager I'd hired 3 months ago. But the real shock wasn't the text. It was what I'd just done to my own family at Riverside Country Club, the exclusive establishment they'd worshipped for years, the place they'd just tried to ban me from entering, the place I secretly owned. My mother's face when she realized I wasn't just the struggling charity worker she'd pitied. My father's strangled silence when he learned his youngest daughter had more money than he'd see in 3 lifetimes. My sister Serena's mascara-streaked cheeks as security escorted them to their table stripped of their precious platinum elite status. That moment when they understood I held all the power they'd spent years lording over me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If this story resonates with you, or if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything, and I read every single comment. Now let me take you back to where this all began. Growing up as the youngest Vance child in Westchester County, I learned early that love in my family came with conditions. My older brother Brendan was the golden child, the firstborn son who could do no wrong. Serena was the beauty, the socialite who married well and knew exactly how to navigate our parents' expectations. And then there was me, Anya, the awkward bookish one who preferred coding to country clubs and thrift stores to Tiffany's. My parents, Robert and Eleanor Vance, had built their entire identity around status. My father ran a moderately successful insurance firm, nothing spectacular, but enough to maintain appearances in our upper-middle-class circle. My mother didn't work instead, dedicating herself to the full-time job of social climbing. Every dinner conversation revolved around who got invited to which gala, whose children got into which Ivy League schools, and most importantly, their obsession with gaining entry to Heritage Club, the most exclusive country club in the tri-state area. Riverside Country Club, where they'd been members for 15 years, wasn't enough anymore. It was perfectly respectable, beautifully maintained with a waiting list years long. But to my parents, it was second tier. They wanted Heritage Club, where the real old money gathered, where a membership was essentially a statement that you'd arrived at the pinnacle of social achievement. I was different from the start, and they never let me forget it. While Serena got a BMW for her 16th birthday, I got a lecture about fiscal responsibility when I asked for a used car. When Brendan's mediocre grades still earned him a celebration dinner at the finest restaurant in town, my straight A's warranted a nod and a reminder not to become too proud. The message was clear. I was the expendable one, the child they'd never quite planned for, never quite understood, and certainly never quite loved the way they loved the others. After college, I did something that horrified them. Instead of pursuing law or finance, or marrying someone from an appropriate family, I taught myself advanced programming and started a software company from my studio apartment in Brooklyn. For 5 years, I lived on ramen and hope working 18-hour days, sleeping on a futon I'd found on the sidewalk, wearing the same rotation of clothes from Target. My family found this mortifying. Eleanor would introduce me at parties with an apologetic smile. "This is Anya, our youngest. She's doing some sort of computer thing in the city. We're hoping she'll grow out of it." Robert would pull me aside at family gatherings to ask when I was going to get a real job, maybe use my education for something respectable. Serena openly mocked my thrift store clothes and my ancient laptop, posting Instagram stories from her luxury vacations with pointed captions about living your best life. I stopped going to most family events. It hurt less to be absent than to be present and invisible. The irony, while they were judging me, my software company was quietly becoming valuable, very valuable. We developed a proprietary algorithm for nonprofit organizations to optimize their fundraising and donor management. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't something I could easily explain at cocktail parties, but it worked. It worked so well that 3 years ago, a major tech firm offered me $60 million for it. $60 million. I was 32 years old, and suddenly I had more money than I'd ever imagined. But I'd learned something during those hungry years in Brooklyn. I'd learned that money didn't buy happiness, that status symbols were empty, and that the relentless pursuit of more was a prison. So I did something that would have given my mother a heart attack if she'd known. I lived exactly the same way. I kept my small apartment in Brooklyn, the one with the creaky floors and the radiator that clanged. I kept driving my 2015 Subaru Outback with the dent in the rear bumper from that time I'd backed into a pole. I kept shopping at thrift stores because I genuinely enjoyed the hunt for hidden treasures. Instead, I founded the Anderson Foundation, named after my college mentor, who'd believed in me when no one else did, and I paid myself a modest salary of $48,000 a year to run it. The foundation became my life's work, my real passion. We funded scholarships for first-generation college students, supported small businesses in underserved communities, and partnered with organizations fighting homelessness. I worked just as hard as I had building my company, but now the rewards were measured in lives changed, not profit margins. My family knew I worked for a nonprofit. What they didn't know is that I'd founded it, funded it, and owned it outright. To them, I was just their charity case daughter with her bleeding heart and her embarrassing lack of ambition. Eleanor would sigh dramatically when people asked about me. Anya works for some charity organization, makes barely anything, but she seems happy, I suppose. The subtext was always clear. I was the failure, the disappointment, the one who'd squandered her potential. For years, I accepted this role. I showed up for mandatory holiday dinners, endured their casual cruelty, and left as quickly as politeness allowed. I told myself that family was family, that their judgment came from a place of concern, that maybe someday they'd see me for who I really was. But this year was different. 3 months ago, I did something impulsive. Riverside Country Club. The place my family had been members for years came up for sale. The previous owner was retiring, and there was concern among members that it might be bought by a corporation that would change its character. I'd actually had good memories of the place from my teenage years. The staff had always been kind to me, even when my family treated me like an afterthought. The grounds were beautiful, and I'd spent hours reading by the pond when I was trying to escape family gatherings. So I bought it, not as Anya Vance. I used my business name A. Petrova, my mother's maiden name that I'd legally added years ago. I bought it through a shell company installed. Marcus Thorne, a hospitality professional I deeply respected as general manager, and made it clear that I wanted to remain a silent owner. The club would continue operating exactly as it always had, with one addition: a strict code of conduct for members emphasizing respect for staff and inclusive behavior. Marcus knew who I was, of course. So did Thomas Warren, the operational director, and my assistant Chloe Jenkins, who'd been with me since the foundation's early days. But to everyone else, including my family, I was just another member who happened to work for a charity. The thing was, I never actually used my membership. I was too busy with the foundation, and frankly, the thought of running into my family there made my stomach churn. So the Riverside Country Club membership card sat in my wallet, untouched, a secret I had no particular reason to reveal. Until this Christmas Eve. The invitation came from Eleanor 3 weeks before Christmas. Anya, darling, we're having our annual Christmas Eve dinner at Riverside this year. The club is doing something very special for Platinum Elite members. You should come. It's been so long since we've all been together. Her voice had that syrupy quality it got when she wanted something, but I was feeling optimistic. Maybe this year would be different. Maybe Christmas magic was real. I should have known better. I spent the week before Christmas agonizing over what to wear. My closet was full of comfortable, practical clothes, nothing fancy. I finally settled on a simple navy dress I'd found at a consignment shop, paired with the pearl necklace my grandmother had left me, the only family heirloom I'd been given because no one else wanted it. I looked neat, presentable, but certainly not expensive. My Subaru was freshly washed, even though the dent was still there. I'd wrapped modest but thoughtful gifts for everyone. As I drove to Riverside Country Club that Christmas Eve, snow was falling in thick, lazy flakes that caught in my headlights. The club looked like something from a movie, every window glowing warm against the darkness. Garlands wrapped around the columns, a massive wreath on the front door. Cars were pulling up to the valet stand, and I recognized them all: Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, even a Bentley. My Subaru looked like exactly what it was: a reliable, unglamorous vehicle that had seen better days. I pulled into a regular parking spot, not wanting to deal with the valet. As I walked toward the entrance, my breath forming clouds in the cold air, I felt that old familiar knot in my stomach. The one that came from years of not being quite good enough, quite polished enough, quite worthy enough of the Vance name. I didn't make it to the door. Serena appeared out of nowhere, wrapped in a fur coat that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her lips painted a perfect crimson. She positioned herself directly in my path, looking me up and down with an expression I knew too well: contempt mixed with pity. "Oh my God, look who decided to show up." Her voice carried in the cold air, and I saw a couple near the entrance turn to look. Anya Vance, everyone, the family charity case. I stopped walking, my heart already sinking. Hello, Serena. Merry Christmas to you too. Merry Christmas. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Did you seriously drive that piece of junk here tonight? And what are you wearing? Did you raid a Goodwill on the way over? I looked down at my dress, suddenly seeing it through her eyes. Not designer, not expensive, not enough. It's just a dress, Serena. I thought we were having dinner, not walking a runway. God, you're so embarrassing. She stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. Do you have any idea what tonight is? This is a Platinum Elite members only event. The creme de la creme. And you show up looking like you're here to clean the bathrooms. The words hit exactly where she intended. I felt my face flush, heat creeping up my neck despite the cold. Mom invited me. She said family dinner. Mom felt sorry for you. You know how she is at Christmas, all sentimental and ridiculous. But there's no way you're going in there. Serena's eyes were hard. You'll embarrass us. You'll embarrass yourself. Honestly, Anya, this whole sad little life you've built, working for pennies at some charity, driving that car, dressing like that, it's pathetic. And we're not going to let you drag us down with you. Before I could respond, I heard my father's voice. Serena's right. Robert Vance emerged from the entrance, my mother, Eleanor, right behind him. My father looked distinguished in his tailored suit, silver hair, perfectly combed, the very picture of successful respectability. My mother wore diamonds at her throat and ears, her dress probably worth more than I paid in rent for 6 months. Dad, my voice came out smaller than I wanted. I was invited. That was a mistake. He didn't even look apologetic, just irritated, like I was a problem to be managed. Anya, tonight is important. We're trying to make an impression. The Heritage Club board members are here as guests. This is our chance to show them we belong in their circle. And you think I'll ruin that? I heard the hurt in my own voice and hated myself for it. Eleanor finally spoke, her tone dripping with false sweetness. Sweetheart, it's not personal. It's just that this is a Platinum Elite event. There are standards. You're technically just a basic member, and well, you don't exactly fit the image we're trying to project. The image? I repeated the word slowly, trying to process what was happening. I'm your daughter, and we love you, darling. Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. But love doesn't mean we have to include you in everything. You've made your choices. You chose that little nonprofit job, that dumpy apartment, that dreadful car. You chose to live beneath your potential, and now we're choosing to protect our reputation. Brendan emerged, then my older brother, the golden child. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Come on, Anya, don't make a scene. Just go home. We'll do lunch sometime, okay? I stood there in the falling snow, looking at the four of them, my entire family united in their rejection of me. United in their certainty that I was an embarrassment, a liability, someone to be hidden away when it mattered. Something in me cracked. Not broke exactly, but definitely cracked. I see. I kept my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. So just to be clear, you invited me to Christmas Eve dinner at the club where I'm a member, and now you're telling me I can't come in because I'm not Platinum Elite and I don't look expensive enough. Don't be dramatic, Robert's voice was sharp. You're not being banned. We're just asking you to be considerate. Go to Applebee's or somewhere more your speed. Have a nice meal. We'll call you tomorrow. Serena laughed at that. Actually laughed. Oh my God, yes. Applebee's is having a special tonight, I think. 2 for $20. Perfect for your budget, Anya. I looked at each of them one more time. My sister, who'd borrowed money from me in college that she'd never repaid. My brother, who'd once told me I was his favorite person in the world, back when we were kids and things were simpler. My mother, who'd given birth to me but never quite figured out how to love me. My father, who'd taught me to ride a bike but never taught me that I mattered. Merry Christmas, I said quietly. Then I turned around and walked back toward my car. I made it about 10 steps before I heard Marcus Thorne's voice sharp with alarm. Miss Anya, wait, please wait. I turned to see Marcus running toward me. His face flushed, his normally impeccable composure completely shattered. He was moving fast enough that he nearly slipped on the snowy walkway. Marcus, I was confused. What's wrong? He reached me slightly out of breath, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fury. Marcus Thorne, the consummate professional who never let emotions show, was absolutely livid. Miss Anya, what just happened? He was almost panting. Did your family just turn you away? Behind me, I heard my father's voice, imperious and irritated. Thorne, what are you doing? This is a family matter. Return to your duties. Marcus ignored him completely. He was staring at me, and I saw him processing something, coming to some decision. Miss Anya, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the cold night air. Are you the owner of this establishment? The question hung in the air. Behind me, I heard my mother gasp. I looked at Marcus at his furious expression at the way he'd positioned himself slightly between me and my family protective. I said simply. The silence that followed was profound. I could hear the snow hitting the ground, the distant sound of Christmas music from inside the club, someone's laughter cutting off abruptly. What? Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. I turned around slowly. My family stood frozen, 4 statues in expensive clothes, their faces cycling through disbelief, confusion, and the first hints of horror. Marcus moved to stand beside me. Then might I inform you as your general manager that there is absolutely no members-only policy tonight. There has never been a members-only policy on Christmas Eve. Someone has given Miss Anya false information and attempted to deny her entry to her own establishment. Her own? Robert couldn't finish the sentence. His face had gone from its usual healthy color to something grayish. Thomas Warren appeared at the entrance, Chloe Jenkins right behind him. They must have been alerted by Marcus. Thomas looked from me to my family and back again, and I saw understanding dawn in his expression. Miss Petrova, Thomas said, using my business name. Is there a problem? Petrova, Serena's voice was shrill. Who the hell is Petrova? It's my mother's maiden name, I said calmly, looking at Eleanor. The name I legally added years ago. You didn't notice because you never asked about my life. Chloe had her tablet out, her expression professional, but her eyes blazing. Miss Anya, should I pull the membership records? I believe there might be some code of conduct violations we need to review. My mother found her voice, though it came out strangled. Anya, what is happening? What are they talking about? You own this place. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something shift inside me. That old desperate need for her approval, her love, her acknowledgement. It was still there, but it was finally less powerful than my need for self-respect. Yes, Mom, I own Riverside Country Club. I bought it 3 months ago. The place you've been a member of for 15 years, the place you've used to measure your social worth, the place you've been bragging about to all your friends, I own it. But how? Robert's business mind was trying to process. You work for a charity, you make nothing. I make $48,000 a year, I agreed. From the Anderson Foundation, which I founded with the $60 million I got when I sold my software company 3 years ago. Brendan made a sound like all the air had been punched out of him. $60 million, I confirmed. The company I built from nothing in that dumpy apartment you all mocked, working on that computer thing you hoped I'd grow out of. I sold it for $60 million, and I used that money to fund a foundation that's changed thousands of lives. That's what I've been doing while you all felt sorry for me. Serena's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide how pale she'd gone. You've had $60 million and you never told us. Why would I? The question came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take it back. So you could mock me for not spending it on the right things. So you could decide I was finally worthy of your approval. So you could ask me for money while still treating me like I'm worthless. Eleanor reached out a hand toward me, then let it drop. Anya, sweetheart, I don't understand. If you had all that money, why would you live like you do? Why wouldn't you tell us? Because I learned something, Mom. I was surprised by how calm my voice was. I learned that money doesn't make you happy, status doesn't make you valuable. And family. I looked at all 4 of them. Family is supposed to love you whether you're rich or poor, successful or struggling, wearing designer clothes or thrift store finds. Real family doesn't turn you away on Christmas Eve because you're not prestigious enough. We didn't, Robert started, but I held up a hand. You did. You absolutely did. And now we're going to talk about consequences. I turned to Thomas. Please pull up the membership records for the Vance family. I want to review their status. Right away, Miss Petrova. Thomas tapped on his phone. Anya, wait. Brendan finally spoke up, his voice pleading. Can we just talk about this inside? This is crazy. Is it? I looked at him. 10 minutes ago, you told me to go to Applebee's. You told me not to make a scene. You stood there while your wife insulted me, while Dad ordered me away, while Mom told me I wasn't good enough for your Christmas party. And you said nothing. You did nothing. I'm sorry, Thou. He looked genuinely distressed. I'm really sorry, Anya. I should have stood up for you. Yes, I agreed. You should have, but you didn't. And that tells me everything I need to know. Chloe stepped forward, her tablet illuminating her face in the snowy darkness. Miss Anya, I have some information you should know. We've had 3 complaints from staff about the Vance family in the past year. 1 incident of rudeness to a server, 1 case of damage to club property that wasn't reported, and 1 instance of demanding services not included in their membership package and becoming verbally aggressive when denied. My mother gasped. That's not true. We've always been perfectly polite. The complaints are documented and signed by staff members. Chloe's voice was level. I have them right here if you'd like to review them. I didn't need to review them. I believed Chloe and I believed the staff, because I'd seen how my family treated people they considered beneath them. I'd been on the receiving end of that treatment my entire life. Here's what's going to happen. I looked at each member of my family in turn. Your Platinum Elite membership is revoked effective immediately. You'll be downgraded to standard membership. You can't do that. Serena was practically shrieking. We earned that status. We've been members for years. I can and I am. This club has a code of conduct that emphasizes respect for all people regardless of their position or appearance. You violated that code tonight, and apparently multiple times before tonight. Anya, please. Eleanor's eyes were filling with tears, but I'd seen her cry before when she wanted something. Don't do this. Think about our reputation. Think about Heritage Club. If they find out we've been downgraded, they will find out. I said it clearly, distinctly. Because I'm also going to ensure that Heritage Club knows exactly why it happened. Your application for membership there, consider it dead. The sound Robert made was almost inhuman. Heritage Club had been his obsession for years, the pinnacle of everything he'd worked toward. And I'd just destroyed it with a sentence. You can't. His voice shook. You don't have that power. Actually, I do. Andrew Fitzgerald, who's on Heritage Club's board, is inside right now. He's a personal friend and we've worked together on several foundation projects. He'll be very interested to hear about what happened tonight. This is revenge, and Serena spat the word at me. You're just getting back at us because you're bitter and jealous. No, I said calmly. This is consequences. There's a difference. You treated me like garbage because you thought I was poor and powerless. Now you're discovering I'm neither. But the problem isn't that you didn't know about my money. The problem is that you thought my worth was tied to money in the first place. I turned back to Marcus and Thomas. Please ensure the Vance family's bill tonight reflects full standard pricing with no Platinum Elite discounts. I want them to see exactly what their status costs them. It will be done, Marcus's voice was grim with satisfaction. And one more thing. I looked back at my family one last time. Your table for tonight has already been arranged, I assume? Yes, Thomas confirmed. Table 12, center of the main dining room. Perfect. Leave it exactly where it is. I smiled without warmth. I want everyone to see you. I want everyone to know that the Vance family lost their Platinum Elite status tonight. I want everyone to wonder why. Anya, please. Brendan looked like he might cry. Don't do this. We're family. You should have thought of that before you sent me to Applebee's. I walked past them, Marcus, Thomas, and Chloe falling into step around me. As I reached the entrance, I heard Eleanor's sob, heard Robert's furious cursing, heard Serena's voice rising in panic. But I didn't look back. The club's main dining room was spectacular. The Christmas decorations were elegant and understated white lights woven through garlands of evergreen candles flickering on every table, a massive tree in the corner draped in gold and silver. The room hummed with conversation and laughter. The clink of crystal, the soft background of a string quartet playing carols. Every head turned as I entered. I saw recognition on some faces, curiosity on others. Marcus leaned in close. The Robertson family has requested the pleasure of your company at their table. Samuel Robertson is very eager to discuss the Foundation's work. I nodded. The Robertsons were old money, genuinely kind people who donated significantly to the Foundation. Their table was positioned near the windows with a beautiful view of the snow-covered grounds. I'd be delighted. As I crossed the dining room, I passed table 12. My family was being seated by a server who looked uncomfortable. Eleanor's face was blotchy from crying. Robert's jaw was clenched so hard I could see the muscles jumping. Serena stared straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge anyone. Brendan caught my eye, and I saw such misery there that I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Samuel Robertson stood as I approached his weathered face, breaking into a genuine smile. Anya. We're so honored you could join us. Merry Christmas, my dear. Merry Christmas, Samuel. I took the seat he offered and immediately felt the warmth of real welcome, real respect. His wife, Margaret, leaned over to squeeze my hand. We were just telling the Hendersons about your scholarship program. 40 students this year, isn't it? 42. I confirmed, and we fell into easy conversation about the Foundation's work, about the students whose lives were changing, about the community programs that were making a difference. From the corner of my eye, I could see my family's table. Servers approached with careful professionalism, but I noticed they weren't lingering for friendly chat the way they did at other tables. Word had clearly spread among the staff about what had happened. My parents sat rigidly, barely touching their food. Serena's face was a mask of forced composure that kept cracking. Brendan looked sick. Halfway through dinner, Andrew Fitzgerald stopped by our table. He was a distinguished man in his 70s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed with the kind of presence that commanded attention. "Anya," he said warmly, "I heard there was some excitement tonight." I set down my fork carefully. "You could say that. Marcus filled me in on the basics. Your family tried to turn you away." "They did." Andrew shook his head slowly. "I've known Robert and Eleanor Vance for several years. Always struck me as rather too concerned with appearances, but I had no idea they'd treat their own daughter so poorly." "Neither did I until tonight." He pulled up a chair, settling in with the ease of someone who belonged everywhere. "You know, Heritage Club prides itself on character, not just wealth. We have plenty of wealthy members. What we value is integrity, kindness, and genuine class. The kind that treats everyone with respect from the club president to the parking attendant." I met his eyes. "I'm aware. I'm going to be very frank with you, Anya. Robert Vance's application for membership was already on shaky ground. We've had some concerning reports about his behavior. Tonight's incident, it's the nail in the coffin. Heritage Club doesn't want members who treat their own children as social liabilities. I appreciate you telling me. However," Andrew's eyes twinkled slightly, "we would be very interested in discussing membership with you. The Foundation's work speaks to exactly the kind of values we hold dear. And any woman who can build a $60 million company and choose to live modestly while giving back to her community, that's our kind of people." I couldn't help but smile. "I'll think about it." "You do that." He stood, patted my shoulder. "And Anya, well done tonight. Sometimes family needs to learn that respect isn't optional." After dinner, I stopped by my family's table on my way out. They all looked up at me with a mixture of fear, resentment, and desperate hope. "Anya," Eleanor's voice was pleading, "can we please talk?" "There's nothing to talk about, Mom." "Yes, there is." Her voice rose, drawing glances from nearby tables. She lowered it hastily. "You're our daughter. We love you. This whole thing is just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding." I repeated the word flatly. "You told me I wasn't good enough to eat Christmas dinner with you. You mocked my car, my clothes, my job. You tried to send me to Applebee's? What part of that did I misunderstand?" Robert stood up, his face red. "You've made your point, Anya. You've humiliated us. Isn't that enough?" "I haven't humiliated you. You've humiliated yourselves. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." Serena finally spoke, her voice venomous. "You're destroying our lives because you're petty and vindictive." "No," I kept my voice level. "I'm establishing boundaries because you've spent my entire life treating me as less than, and I'm finally done accepting it." Brendan stood up too. "Anya, I know I messed up. I know I should have defended you. I'm sorry, really, truly sorry. Can't we fix this?" I looked at my brother, the person I'd once been closest to back when we were kids, and the world was simpler. "Brendan, you've watched them treat me badly my entire life. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern. And you've always chosen them over me because it was easier. I'll do better, I promise. Maybe you will, but I'm not going to wait around to find out." I looked at all four of them one last time. "Here's the thing you need to understand. I didn't need your approval when I thought I was poor. And I definitely don't need it now that you know I'm rich. What I needed was for you to love me regardless, and you couldn't do that. So we're done." "Done?" Eleanor's voice broke. "What do you mean, done?" "I mean, I'm finished trying to earn your love. I'm finished making excuses for your cruelty. I'm finished showing up for family events where I'm treated like an embarrassment. You wanted me to be something I wasn't, and I've spent my whole life trying to be enough for you. I'm not doing that anymore." "Anya, please," my mother was crying openly now. "You're all we have." "You have each other," I said, "and apparently that's exactly how you want it. Merry Christmas." I walked out of Riverside Country Club into the snowy night, the cold air hitting my face like a blessing. My Subaru sat exactly where I'd left it, humble and reliable among the luxury vehicles. I got in, started the engine, and sat for a moment, my hands on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. Text messages were coming in rapid fire. "Robert, this is ridiculous. We're your parents. You owe us respect." "Eleanor, Anya, please. Can we talk tomorrow? I'm your mother. I love you." "Serena, you're going to regret this. Everyone will know what a vindictive bitch you are." "Brendan, I'm so sorry. Please give me another chance. I love you." I read each message once, then put my phone face down on the passenger seat. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that I hadn't already said. As I drove home through the snow, past houses glowing with Christmas lights, past families visible through windows gathered around trees, I expected to feel something. Triumph, maybe, or vindication, or even sadness. Instead, I felt peace. For the first time in my life, I felt completely, entirely at peace with who I was. I didn't need to change. I didn't need to prove myself. I didn't need anyone's approval or validation. I was exactly enough just as I was. My phone continued to buzz periodically throughout the drive home, but I ignored it. When I finally got to my apartment, the small space felt warm and welcoming. I made myself a cup of tea, changed into my comfortable pajamas, and sat by my window, watching the snow fall. Around midnight, I checked my messages one more time. There were 17 now, various combinations of apologies, demands, accusations, and pleas from my family. I scrolled through them without reading most of them. But there was one message that wasn't from them. It was from Marcus Thorne. Miss Anya, I want you to know that the staff is behind you 100%. What happened tonight was long overdue. We've watched you be kind to every person here regardless of their position. We've seen you treat our parking attendants with the same respect you show the board members. That's real class. Your family could learn from you. Merry Christmas, and thank you for standing up for yourself and for us. I smiled, feeling tears prick my eyes for the first time that night. Not tears of sadness, but of gratitude. Marcus understood. The staff understood. The people whose opinions actually mattered understood. The next morning, Christmas Day, I woke to find my phone had blown up overnight. There were now 43 messages from various family members and family friends. Apparently, word had spread quickly through their social circle. Eleanor had sent a long, rambling message at 3 a.m. Anya, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about what happened. You have to understand, we didn't mean to hurt you. We were just trying to protect our social standing. You know how important appearances are in our world. We've worked so hard to get where we are. Can't you see it from our perspective? We love you, sweetheart. Please don't throw away our family over one mistake. One mistake. She called it one mistake as if it hadn't been a lifetime of dismissal and criticism. Robert's messages were different, oscillating between anger and what I supposed was his version of apologizing. You've embarrassed us in front of everyone who matters. This is incredibly selfish, Anya. We're your family. Then hours later, I may have been too harsh last night. We should talk. And then, you're being childish. Call me. Serena had sent a series of increasingly unhinged messages. Everyone is talking about us. Do you know what you've done? My friends are asking questions. This is humiliating. Then, fine, you want an apology? I'm sorry, there, happy. Then you know what, you're dead to me. I never want to see you again. Brendan's messages were the hardest to read because they seemed genuinely remorseful. Anya, I haven't slept. I keep thinking about all the times I should have stood up for you and didn't. I was a coward. I still am a coward. But I want to be better. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for a chance to prove I can be the brother you deserve. I made coffee and sat with my laptop, finally looking at the email Marcus had sent with the full incident reports from the staff. Reading them made my stomach turn. Maria, one of the servers, had reported that Eleanor had snapped at her last summer for bringing the wrong wine, then complained to management that Maria was incompetent and shouldn't be serving members of their caliber. Marcus had smoothed it over, but Maria had been shaken. James, a groundskeeper, reported that Serena had backed her car into a decorative planter, cracking it significantly, then driven away without reporting it. When James had politely asked her about it the next day, she laughed and said, "That's what you're here for, isn't it, to clean up our messes?" Robert had been reported for berating a young valet for taking too long to retrieve his car, using language that made the 19-year-old college student actually tear up. These were the people who judged me for not being classy enough. These were the people who deemed me unworthy of their Christmas celebration. I spent Christmas days alone, and it was one of the best Christmases I'd had in years. I volunteered at a soup kitchen in the morning, one that the foundation supported. I served meals, talked with people, heard their stories. In the afternoon, I visited a nursing home where many residents had no family, bringing small gifts and spending time with lonely seniors. These people didn't care about my car or my clothes. They cared that I showed up. They cared that I listened. They cared that I treated them like human beings who mattered. That evening, I got a call from Andrew Fitzgerald. "Anya, I hope I'm not disturbing your holiday." "Not at all, Andrew. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, my dear. I'm calling because I had a very interesting conversation with Robert Vance this morning. He wanted to discuss his Heritage Club application. I can imagine. Andrew's voice was dry with amusement. He suggested that there had been a family misunderstanding and that perhaps I'd heard an exaggerated version of events. He implied that you might be emotionally unstable and prone to overreaction. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course he did. I told him that I'd spoken with multiple witnesses, including staff members, and that I had no doubt about what had transpired. I also told him that Heritage Club has a zero-tolerance policy for members who show disrespect to service workers. His application has been formally rejected. How did he take that? Not well. He became rather heated, actually, which only confirmed my decision. A man's true character shows when he doesn't get what he wants. We talked for a few more minutes, and before we hung up, Andrew said something that stayed with me. Anya, you know what impressed me most about last night? You didn't lose your composure. You didn't yell or make a scene. You simply held people accountable for their actions with dignity and clarity. That's power, real power. The week between Christmas and New Year's was strange. My family continued their barrage of messages, but I noticed a shift in tone. The apologies became more desperate, more detailed. They were starting to realize I wasn't going to forgive them just because they said sorry. Eleanor sent a particularly long email on December 28th. Anya, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Your father and I have been in therapy for years, did you know that? Not because of our relationship with you, but because of our own insecurities. I grew up poor, dirt poor. My father was an alcoholic who could barely hold a job. I wore secondhand clothes and free lunch tickets at school. When I married your father, when we finally made something of ourselves, I swore I'd never go back to that. I became obsessed with status because it was the opposite of everything I'd escaped. But I see now that I made you feel the way I felt as a child. Less than. Not good enough. I'm so sorry. It was the most honest thing my mother had ever said to me. It explained a lot, but it didn't excuse anything. I wrote back my only response to any of them. Mom, I understand that you had trauma. We all have trauma, but at some point, we have to take responsibility for the hurt we cause others, regardless of why we cause it. I'm glad you're in therapy. I hope you continue. But I need space from all of you right now, and I need you to respect that. On New Year's Eve, I threw a party. Not at Riverside Country Club, but at the Foundation's community center. I invited the scholarship students, the families we'd helped, the volunteers who'd given their time. We had potluck food and cheap champagne and someone's playlist on a Bluetooth speaker. At midnight, when everyone was counting down and cheering, I looked around at the faces surrounding me. These were my people, not because they were rich or prestigious or could advance my social standing, but because they were kind, because they showed up, because they treated each other with dignity and respect. Maria from Riverside Country Club was there. I'd invited all the staff, and about a dozen had come. She approached me with a shy smile. Miss Anya, I wanted to thank you for what you did on Christmas Eve. You don't know how much it meant to all of us. I should have done it sooner, I told her honestly. I should have addressed their behavior the moment I bought the club. But you did it when it mattered, she said. You stood up for yourself, and in doing that, you stood up for all of us. That took courage. In mid-January, I got an unexpected visitor at my apartment. Brendan showed up without calling first, looking haggard and thin. Before you slam the door, he said quickly, I'm not here to make excuses or ask you to forgive everyone. I'm here because I need to say something and I need you to hear it. I considered closing the door anyway, but something in his face stopped me. I let him in. We sat in my small living room, the one my family had mocked for being too cramped, too shabby. Brendan looked around like he was seeing it for the first time. This place is nice, he said quietly. It's cozy. It feels like you. What do you want, Brendan? He took a deep breath. I want to tell you that you were right about everything. I've been going to therapy since Christmas Eve. Individual therapy, not couples therapy with my wife. And I'm starting to understand how messed up our family really is. Okay, I don't remember when it started exactly. When I started caring more about what Mom and Dad thought than about what was right. When I started valuing their approval over your feelings. But somewhere along the way, I became complicit in everything they did to you. I didn't say anything. I wanted to hear what he had to say. I remember when you were in high school and Mom made that comment about your weight in front of your friends. You were maybe 5 pounds heavier than usual, probably just from puberty. And she said you should skip dessert if you wanted to fit into your prom dress. You left the table crying and I just sat there. I said nothing. The memory hit me like a physical blow. I'd forgotten that specific incident, but now it came rushing back with painful clarity. I remember when you won that coding competition in college, a national competition, and you were so excited to tell Dad. And he said it was nice, but when was he going to get a real accomplishment to brag about, like if Serena's husband made partner, or if I landed that account? And I saw your face just crumble, and I said nothing. Brendan, why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know that I see it now. I see all of it. Every dismissal, every criticism, every time they made you feel small. And I see my role in it. I was the golden child who could have used his position to protect you, and instead I just enjoyed my position and let you suffer. He was crying now, not dramatically, just quiet tears running down his face. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even asking you to. I just need you to know that I'm not going to be that person anymore. I've started setting boundaries with Mom and Dad. I've told them that their behavior was unacceptable and that if they want a relationship with me, they need to do serious work on themselves. How's that going? He laughed bitterly. Not well. Dad says I'm being brainwashed by my therapist. Mom keeps crying and saying I'm choosing you over them. Serena isn't speaking to me because I told her she was cruel to you. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what I should have done years ago. He wiped his eyes. I also need to tell you something else. Something I should have told you on Christmas Eve. What? 3 years ago when you sold your company, Mom and Dad found out. Someone from their social circle knew someone who knew someone. They knew you had money on you. They knew the whole time. The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did, and the betrayal hit me all over again, fresh and sharp. They knew, and they decided not to acknowledge it because they were hoping you'd eventually come to them, share it with them, maybe help fund their Heritage Club membership, or buy them a bigger house. But when you didn't, when you just kept living the same modest life, they got angry. They felt like you were withholding from them, like you were being selfish. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. That's why Christmas Eve happened the way it did. They weren't just embarrassed by how you looked. They were punishing you for having money and not giving it to them, for choosing charity over family. That's what Mom said to me the next day. She said you'd chosen strangers over your own blood and that you'd made them look like fools. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Brooklyn street below. People were going about their lives completely unaware that mine was fracturing all over again. Anya, Brendan's voice was tentative. I'm so sorry, I should have told you sooner. Get out. What? I turned to face him. Get out of my apartment, right now. Anya, please, You're trying to make yourself feel better. You're trying to ease your guilt. But you just told me that my parents knew about my money for 3 years and chose to continue treating me like garbage. You told me that Christmas Eve was calculated cruelty, not a mistake. And you expect me to what? Thank you for finally being honest. I thought you deserved to know the truth. I deserved to know the truth 3 years ago. You're 3 years late, Brendan. Now get out. He left. I didn't watch him go. I stood at my window for a long time after processing this new information. They knew. They'd known all along. Every dismissive comment, every criticism, every time they'd made me feel like I wasn't enough, they'd done it knowing I had more money than they'd ever see. They'd done it deliberately, maliciously, as punishment for not sharing my wealth with them. That night, I made a decision. I drafted a letter one I'd been considering for weeks, but hadn't had the courage to send. I sent it via email to all 4 of them. To the Vance family, this letter is to formally inform you that I am taking a complete break from our relationship effective immediately. This is not a decision I've made lightly, but it is final. I've spent my entire life trying to earn your love and approval. I changed myself, diminished myself, and sacrificed my own happiness in an attempt to be the daughter and sister you wanted. It was never enough. No matter what I achieved, how hard I tried, or how much I compromised, I was always found lacking. Christmas Eve was not an isolated incident. It was the culmination of decades of being treated as lesser, as an embarrassment, as someone whose worth was determined by external markers of success that you valued, but I did not. I now know that you've been aware of my financial success for years. This makes your treatment of me even more painful because it means your cruelty was intentional. You weren't disappointed in my life choices. You were punishing me for not using my resources to elevate your social status. I don't hate you, but I can't have a relationship with people who fundamentally don't respect me. I can't keep showing up to be hurt, dismissed, and diminished. I deserve better. I've always deserved better. I'm not asking for apologies. I'm not asking for you to change. I'm simply removing myself from a dynamic that has never been healthy and never will be. To be clear, do not contact me. Do not show up at my home or workplace. Do not try to reach me through friends or acquaintances. If you see me in public, please respect my space and do not approach me. If there is a genuine family emergency, you may contact my assistant Chloe Jenkins and she will relay the message to me. I will decide how and if to respond. I wish you all well. I hope you find peace and happiness in your lives. But those lives will no longer include me. Anya Petrova, Vance. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The responses started coming within minutes. Eleanor's was first a wall of text begging me to reconsider, saying I was destroying the family, that I was being cruel and heartless. Robert's was angry, accusing me of abandoning my responsibilities as a daughter. Serena's was brief and hateful. Good riddance. We never needed you anyway. Brendan's was different. I understand. I'm sorry it came to this. I hope someday you'll let me try to be the brother you deserved, but I respect your decision. I read them all once then. I did something I'd been afraid to do for weeks. I blocked all their numbers. I filtered their emails to a folder I wouldn't check. I removed them from all my social media. I cut the cord completely. And then I cried. Not the quiet, dignified tears I'd been holding back. I sobbed deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. I cried for the little girl who'd never felt good enough. I cried for the teenager who'd been mocked at her own dinner table. I cried for the young woman who'd achieved incredible things and had no one to celebrate with. I cried for all the years I'd wasted trying to earn love that was never freely given. But when I was done crying, when the tears finally stopped and my breath steadied, I felt something unexpected. Relief. The weight I'd been carrying my entire life, the constant anxiety of wondering if this would be the time they finally accepted me, if this achievement would finally make them proud, if this visit would finally go well. It was gone. I was free. The months that followed were transformative. Without the constant drain of managing my family's expectations and nursing wounds from their cruelty, I had energy for things I'd neglected. I threw myself into the foundation's work with renewed passion. We expanded our scholarship program. We launched a new initiative supporting women entrepreneurs. We partnered with 3 more nonprofits doing incredible work. I made new friends, real friends. People who valued kindness over status. I started dating someone I met at a foundation event, a teacher who worked in an underfunded school and had never heard of Riverside Country Club and didn't care. I took up painting again, a hobby I'd loved in college, but abandoned because my parents called it frivolous. I was happy, genuinely deeply happy, in a way I'd never been when I was trying to maintain a relationship with people who didn't value me. There were hard moments, of course. Holidays were strange. My birthday came and went without a single message from any of them, which hurt. Even though I'd expected it. Sometimes I'd see something funny or interesting and instinctively think about calling Brendan before remembering I couldn't. But those moments became less frequent. The grief became manageable, and the peace became my new normal. 6 months after Christmas Eve, I got a call from Marcus Thorne. Miss Anya, I have some news you should probably hear. The Vance family has canceled their membership at Riverside. They quit. More accurately, they couldn't afford to renew. Without the Platinum Elite discount, the annual fees were too high for them. I thought you'd want to know. I waited for some feeling of triumph or satisfaction. It didn't come. I just felt tired. Thank you for telling me, Marcus. I hope they land on their feet. You're very gracious. Not gracious, just done. Their financial situation isn't my concern anymore. About a year after that Christmas Eve, I ran into Eleanor at a charity gala. The foundation had been invited to present our work, and I was there representing us. I saw her across the room, looking older and smaller than I remembered. Our eyes met. She started to move toward me, but I shook my head slightly. She stopped, understanding. We looked at each other across the crowded room for a long moment. Then I turned away. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't really feel anything except a mild sadness for what could have been if only they'd been different people, or if I'd been willing to remain small. That night, as I drove home in my still-dented Subaru, I thought about that Christmas Eve, about standing in the snow being turned away by my own family, about the moment I stopped protecting them from consequences, about choosing myself finally after a lifetime of choosing them. It wasn't revenge. It never had been. It was freedom. So here's what I learned from becoming the owner of the club that rejected me. Your worth is not determined by how others value you. Your success is not measured by expensive clothes or luxury cars. And real family doesn't make you earn love with perfect behavior and acceptable achievements. Family shows up. Family sees you. Family loves you as you are, not as they want you to be. And if the family you were born into can't do that, then you build your own family from the people who can. I'm Anya Petrova Vance. I own a multi-million-dollar country club. I drive a dented Subaru, and I've never been happier. Have you ever had to walk away from family for your own well-being? How did you find the courage to put yourself first? Drop your stories in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because there's so much more to share. Sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is the freedom to be exactly who you are.